Welcome to The Sacred Everywhere. I'm Dr. Sheri Kling, and in this space we explore how the sacred shows up in real life, in our questions, our struggles, our longing, and our hope. Can we find the sacred in every place and everyone? Let's see. Well, I don't have another conversation for you this week, but what I do have is that I wanted to share the content of a piece that I wrote on Substack this week. It's called Reminders of Another Time and Place. So last Friday, I had the opportunity to hear a local Florida-based band called Passerine. They're a group of 4 musicians who describe themselves as offering a genre-bending take on traditional folk and bluegrass, as well as a repertoire of original songs that range from sweet ballads to the edgier side of contemporary Americana. Now, on Friday, they played a nice mix of covers and originals in the short set that I heard, and the quality of the music was really good. It was very, very strong. And watching them immediately took me back to all the coffeehouse style concerts that I both watched and performed in during these many years that I've been playing music. So, a little history. I started playing guitar when I was 9 years old, growing up in Roselle, New Jersey, and I took lessons from Mrs. Garcia. She lived down the street from me. And when my mother and I went to see her for the first time, I was immediately struck by her bohemian appearance. And I think she asked my mom if I liked to sing. And my mom was like, does she like to sing? She sings all the time. She whistles all the time. Family lore is that I actually started whistling before I could talk. I don't remember that, but that's what they say. So after my first lesson, I could play a rudimentary song called the Rote Song. And I still remember it. So I studied with Mrs. Garcia for about 2 years, and she taught me all the great folkies, like Joan Baez, Pete Seeger, Peter, Paul and Mary, Woody Guthrie, and many others in that same style, that same genre. And in that same time frame, my cousin took lessons from a local music store near where she lived. Now, her lessons lasted about 30 minutes and cost $3 a piece. Mine were the same price, but went for at least an hour and sometimes more. Now, in Mrs. Garcia's home, I learned scales and played the typical songs from the Mel Bay guitar books, but that was just the beginning. I learned finger picking patterns that I still use all the time. She helped me understand how to set poetry to music, so we were writing music together. And of course, we sang together all the time. It was glorious. Years later, I wrote a song to honor Mrs. Garcia and all the artists that she introduced me to. The song is called I Heard Colors, and I'll link it in the Substack show notes so you can hear the fully produced version from my CD. But this Passerine show also transported me back to my years living in Georgia. Now, in the late 1980s and early 90s, I performed with a keyboardist named Dave as a duo called In This World. I was surprised today to find a short review of our album from 1991, What Key Is This in an article from Sojourners magazine posted and written in 1992 that's still online. And I'll link that as well. Now, my very first performance with Dave was actually opening for the Indigo Girls at the Little 5 Points Pub in Atlanta, Georgia, the night that the Atlanta Journal-Constitution announced their signing with Epic Records. Now, we went on to play all the usual places in the area that were part of the folk scene at the time, and even once at the Bluebird Cafe in Nashville, which I have to say was pretty darn amazing. Now, Dave and I parted ways as a duo in 1991, and then I went on to release a solo album in 2002 called Let It Unfold, And then Heartland and Passions and Prodigals both were released in 2005. And I left my last software marketing job in mid 2003 and embarked then on a performing career. And I remember, I had decided that I wanted to do more with music, that I wanted a more creative life. And in December of 2002, after I had released my CD, I started dreaming about that and thinking, oh, maybe I could leave this company at the end of May after our customer conference was over, which was a big project that I always helped to execute and to, do. And in March, the company bought another company, as they were wont to do, and then lay off people, as they were wont to do. And so they called me into the office and they said, we're letting you and your team go at the end of May after the customer conference. So to me, that felt like I was being released into a new life. And so I was actually happy about it. And so I spent about a summer of that year of 2003 spending a lot of time in silence and on my screen porch in the trees, listening to the birds, reading and journaling, and just sort of preparing myself for this whole new endeavor. And then in that fall, I embarked on a career as a performing singer, songwriter, and recording artist, mostly in the Southeast. And I have to say, life in those days was gloriously creative, but it was not financially secure. Is life ever financially secure, I wonder, for the bulk of us? But anyway, in 2006, then I decided to make the leap to follow my heart and move to the Northeast Georgia mountains. Now, there was an area called the Sawtee-Nacoochee Valley that I had fallen in love with back in, I think, 1990, when Dave and I actually performed a gig there as part of a Earth Jam, ecological Earth Day type of event. And I just had been in love with this place ever since. And I finally decided, you know what? I have no security right now living in Marietta, Georgia. I might as well live where I want to live and have no security. So I moved into a 100-year-old farmhouse on 8 acres of land in Demarest, Georgia, and absolutely fell in love with the place. It was on a busy road, but there was a pasture, creek, an old barn at which I used to gaze from my office window, and a small lake in the back behind the barn that actually connected to the Sequoia River. Unfortunately, I learned far too late the joys of kayaking and getting from that lake into the river, or else I would have been doing that all the time. But it was a really, really special place to live. And I felt like I developed a relationship with that land and with that house. And honestly, if I'd been able to make a living there, I never would have left, never would have gone to graduate school, and wouldn't have done many of the things really of which I'm most proud at this point. But heaven knows I miss that community. And even though this Jersey girl was not born in the South, those Appalachian foothills around the Sawtee-Nacoochee Valley and Habersham County and White County feel like the earthly home of my soul. And while I was living there, I began writing for the local newspaper essays about every couple of weeks. And then I later published a small collection of those pieces in the book, Finding Home, Rural Reflections on the Journey to Wholeness. I'll link to that too. So yes, graduate school gave me the credentials of a theologian, but I was writing theology and essays and in music long before I set foot on the campus of the Lutheran School of Theology at Chicago or Claremont School of Theology. Now, to be truthful, I might say now what I was really writing was spirituality. I wasn't writing systematic theology. And I wasn't even writing religious music per se. That was part of the problem. I always felt like the music I was doing, the original music I was doing, was a little too spiritual for the strict, straight folk venues, and it wasn't religious enough for the churches. So I was kind of caught in the middle, which is sort of the story of my life. And anyway, in the meantime, I did go to graduate school. I did then get a job in Tennessee for a few years, and then I moved to Florida where I am now. And I'm happy generally to be living here. I love being near my mom, and it's been a good place for me for this time. But there is a hunger in me for the land of the Appalachian foothills and the music that lives in the air there. And I try to express that yearning in a song that I wrote called Appalachian Love Song. And so I'm going to play that for you now and put that in this podcast. Well, I ended up having to record the song on a different day than the rest of the video, so that's why things look a little bit different. But here's Appalachian Love Song. On days like these, I wish that I was in a coochie, or looking up at Iona Mountain, lying on my back beside the Chattahoochee River. On days like these, I wish I was, I wish I was. When summer comes, my heart will be in Sawtee Valley. My voice will echo through those hills, rolling through the trees, a dozen rivers flowing southward. When summer comes, my heart will be, my heart will be. My heart will be made one with heaven and earth. Love poured out, the wine of rebirth. I hear your call, and I'll return another season. Embrace my Appalachian lover, lying on my back beside the Chattahoochee River. I hear your call, and I'll return, I will return. That's what I remember about that beautiful place in Northeast Georgia, and about my time there. And so just wanted to share that with you. And I wish you a beautiful journey in your own remembered favorite times and places. I hope that you find what brings you that kind of joy, whether it's music or poetry or dancing or anything else. And I hope that you can also see All of that as part of the sacred. Thank you. Thanks for being part of this journey. If these conversations matter to you, your membership helps make them possible. Until next time, may you notice the sacred.